Hey, this is the Big Hardcore Gamer, and in this video I'll be reviewing A Plague Tale Requiem, which I played on PS5. But first, a disclaimer, okay? This video does not include any story spoilers for the game, but instead I'll mostly be talking about how they improved the game regarding combat, crafting, balancing, and pace, as well as some issues I have with the game. I've deliberately chosen not to talk about certain things, even though I saw certain things in some of the previews, as I still feel that they may be seen as a spoiler. Okay, so I will mention briefly the previous game as well. So if you haven't played that yet, I suggest you go and play it. Or, if you want to see what goes on in the first game, I've got a whole series on my channel which you can check out. But if you're not worried about any spoilers for that one, fine, continue on the video. Okay, so let's get into it. A Plague Tale Requiem is a third-person action-adventure game with some horror elements. It takes place 6 months after the events of Innocence, with the siblings Amicia and Hugo de Rune searching for a cure for the macula, which was the ancient curse that was awoken in Hugo's blood during the first game, and by the end of the first game it allowed him to take control of hordes of rats. Now, Hugo is constantly overwhelmed by these powers, while Amicia is dealing with the emotional trauma of all the enemies she killed to keep her brother safe. And if you played the first game, you know she killed a lot of people. Okay, so let's start off with some of the changes they've made in this game. The game starts off with a little, nice little section with Hugo, Amicia, and Lucas all playing in a field. Now, this little section works as the game's main tutorial, where you're going over some of the moves, some of the gameplay mechanics from the first game, and then they gradually start introducing some some new changes that they made. And these are small changes, but when you see them, you're like, okay, it would have been nice to be able to do this in the first game. And they start off with small things like the breakable parts that you could pick up before. You're now not limited to one. You can pick up, I think it's like 3 of them. You can stack up. You also have unlimited rocks as well for your sling. When enemies detect where you're hiding and they're walking towards you, before they actually see you, you can push a button to throw a rock in another direction to distract them, and then when they've turned their edge, you can actually move away. And you actually do need to move away, because if you don't, they will continue walking your direction and they'll find you. You can throw sticks that are already on fire into braziers to set them alight. You can even throw sticks to your companions as well in some cases, so they can light them up to make their way through the hordes of rats. The weapon wheel is so much cleaner, and this is one of the things I love the most, because in the first game you had like 9 sections on the weapon wheel, which was for each different type of ammo that you created using the alchemy. Now they've condensed it to 4 sections, and you can use the D-pad to select different weapons and different ammo types. So you basically pull on the left trigger and press up or down to select the different weapons, or left and right to select the different ammo types. Later on in the game you also find a crossbow, which can be used to quickly kill enemies that don't have their heads exposed. You can craft ammo by pulling the left trigger as well, and then when you pull the left trigger and select the different type of ammo you want, you can just hold down the X button on the PS controller and it will craft the ammo without you needing to go into the menu, which is much quicker. Another change they've made, which I absolutely love, is you can now combine alchemy with breakable parts, which creates a bomb. So how it works is you create alchemy ammo, and this ammo can be used in either the sling, it can be used as a regular throwable item, just like you could do in the first game. But if you select the parts, it will create like a greater explosion. So say for example, if you select the fire ammo and put that in, throw that in the pot, it will spread the fire to a larger radius. So it's especially useful if you want to take out 2 or 3 enemies who are standing close by each other. And you can basically do that with any of the alchemy ammo you create. You no longer need to use the same materials for alchemy to upgrade your gear, which, listen, a few weeks ago I got the platinum for a Plague Tale Innocence, and one of the things that absolutely pissed me off was saving up materials to upgrade the sling and the gear and etc. And then I'd get into a combat situation where I needed to create new alchemy ammo to get me through certain areas, and I'll do this, and then when I'd reach a workbench to upgrade my gear, I found that I didn't have enough materials. So this really pissed me off, and it and it made the platinum take a little bit longer than I expected. In this game, you don't need to use any of those materials for your upgrades. You literally find bags of pieces, and that's literally what they're called. They're called pieces when you pick them up. So you pick up a bag, it will say you got 5 pieces, 10 pieces, whatever. So you find those, and you find the tools, just like you did in the first game. Now, the first game was mostly stealth, but this one is a combination of both stealth and action. So there are some new combat mechanics. So, for example, take the archers, right? They no longer have pinpoint accuracy when they see you. The first shot will miss. The second shot won't miss, right? So after the first one's missed, which will usually be a close call, it will leave Amicia stunned. Then you need to either get into cover until it wears off, or kill them before they can take another shot. With close combat, they will knock you down, just like they would do at the beginning of the kill animation in the first game. Right, and this will basically give you the same effect. Once they knock you down, it will stun you, but then you can actually get back up and you can actually hit them with a melee strike, as long as you've got your sling. So when she does this, she'll actually whip them with the sling, and then with some enemies will allow you to do a follow-up attack to finish them off. When you're close enough now, you can also stab them with a knife. Yes, it looks like they took people's comparisons to The Last of Us to heart, because you have knives in this game. Right now, the knives, they can be found around different areas in the levels, and they are single-use breakable items, which are just used to get you out of sticky situations. So if you've been stunned, when you get back up, you will see a prompt up on the screen for you to stab the enemy, which will kill them. Even if they're wearing armor, it will. Well, actually, no, I didn't try it on some of the seriously heavy duty armor enemies, but it will kill most enemies when you choose to use the stab function. The knives can also be used to open locked weapon benches as well. Enemy AI is definitely smarter in this game. Okay, they won't just stop looking for you when you go back into hiding. They will keep looking. To avoid them, you can throw a stone in the other direction, like I mentioned earlier. But you can also hide under tables and carts. Like I said, they're taking similarities from The Last of Us. Think of how Ellie could hide underneath vehicles. You can basically hide underneath carts down on the tables. But if they're searching for you, they will look at these hiding spots and they will pull you out. Tall grass is a requirement in every stealth game now, but as I said before, the enemies are smarter. So with the tall grass, they will come looking for you. If they get close enough, they will see you, and they will actually set fire to the grass to kill you. Now, while we're talking about fire, let's just, show some appreciation for how good the fire is in this game, because it was important in the first game, because you needed it to get through the hordes of rats, and you still do it in this game, right? but I like how it's used in combat in ways I didn't actually, even consider them using. For example, I talked about the tall grass and how they can set fire to the grass if they catch you hiding in it, but you can also lure enemies into tall grass and set fire to it, killing them as well, which I've done many occasions during my playthrough. I would literally throw a breakable pot into tall grass, and then as they're walking over the grass, I would switch to one of the fire pots and just set that bitch on fire. And if I'm lucky, I would catch like two or three, um, you know, in the fire. And once they're caught in it, unless they've got some heavy duty armor on, they're getting roasted nice, quick and easy. Right? One thing though, once you set fire to the tall grass, that grass disappears, so it removes another hiding spot you've got on the level, forcing you into the action. The crossbow is also a great addition to the game, especially since this uh, is more action based as well. Because although I'm used to the sling now after playing the first game, it can be difficult to take on loads of enemies coming at you when you've only got the sling. And trust me, the game still forces you to do it from time to time, but it's good to have an extra option to kill them. So with the enemies who are wearing their helmets, obviously you can't actually kill them with a headshot from the sling while they're wearing their helmet. But if you got a crossbow, if their body's exposed, you can actually shoot them in the gut or shoot them in the back or whatever and kill them that way. But saying that, with the sling, if they actually have a helmet on, another improvement they made is you can now actually fire a rock at the helmet and it will stun them. There are three separate skill paths which will gradually upgrade depending on your playstyle. So the first one is Prudence. Now this is the stealth path, which you get for moving through areas undetected. Two of the unlocks you get for this are the light footsteps, which basically reduces the sound Amicia makes when moving, and nimbleness, which increases her movement speed when crouched. And these were things that you had to upgrade your gear for in the first game, so I'm glad that they've actually added these separately. Aggressive, as I mentioned earlier, this is has a lot more combat in the game. So this path is designed for that. So two of the unlocks for this one are Grappler, which allows Amicia to push enemies into fire pits or push them into hordes of rats, and Recovery, which allows her to recover quicker from taking a hit, or basically recover quicker from the stunned state. With the opportunism skill set, you level this up by using alchemy for your kills. So doing things like using extinguish to put out fire on the enemy torch so that rats can run up and eat the soldiers. Two unlocks for this one are alchemy knowledge, which lets you craft alchemy much faster, and nothing lost, which gives you a chance to save resources when crafting. Now, with these skill sets, you don't actually need to spend any resources to upgrade them. They automatically upgrade depending on your chosen playstyle. One of my concerns before playing this game was that there might be a balancing issue, because at the end of Plague Tale Innocence, Hugo was seriously overpowered. He was literally commanding like swarms of rats, like sending out rat tornadoes. It was some madness. And also, when Amicia was walking with him, she was able to walk through the hordes of rats and they wouldn't attack her. So obviously, if they add that from the beginning of this game, it would have made the game way too easy. That even the first game, you didn't have those level of powers until right at the end. So they definitely needed to balance out the game, and what they've basically done is they nerfed Hugo. Well, they nerfed him, and at the same time, they gave him new powers. So I'm not going to go into the new powers that he has, I'll let you find out when you play the game. But one thing that they removed was the ability to walk through hordes of rats with him. Now, if you try that shit, it doesn't matter whether Hugo's in control or not. If you try walking through those rats are going to eat you, just like they usually would. Also, with the arrows, they're kind of scarce. They're often in areas where you're going to put yourself in harm's way to actually get them as well, which is something that I like, because just like we don't want Hugo being overpowered throughout the game to make it too easy, we don't want Amisha being overpowered as well, which the arrows for the crossbow definitely make things a lot easier. So having to struggle to find them, it balances it out a bit. Also, there's New Game Plus available for this game, which I'm so happy about, because, like I said, when I went for the platinum for the first game, it not having New Game Plus was really annoying. Because to get all the collectibles and all the upgrades, I would have to just select each chapter, which was all good for the I think they were called curiosities in the first game. It was all good because it would remember the ones you've already collected. But when it came to upgrading your sling and your gear, it didn't remember anything. So you would literally need to start from an earlier chapter and work your way through it, which is why I got so annoyed when it came to collecting resources and saving them to upgrade the gear. So at least now I know this time you get New Game Plus, and it keeps all your upgrades so you can just finish them off. The performances from the voice actors in this game are amazing. They did an amazing job. The best performance in this game for me is from Charlotte McBurney, who does the English voice for Amicia. You really feel for her when things start to get really bad and she starts getting more and more desperate. She will do whatever it takes to save her brother and kill anyone that gets in her way. So expect, a lot of deaths in this game. A nice touch that they added was the companions will actually make little comments when she's going too far. Like when she's killing soldiers which could have been snuck past, they will actually comment on it and to basically turn into chill, because they don't want to have the whole army coming after her. So that was a nice touch. And you know the game has some really nice set pieces as well. Yes, they do involve a shitload of rats. I'm not going to say to spoil anything, but they definitely switch from stealth gameplay to batshit crazy real quick and on multiple occasions during the game. Right, so let's talk about some of the issues with the game. Yeah, so the main one, which we found out literally a few days before release, or like the week before release, is that the game's locked at 30 frames per second, which, after playing games at 60 frames per second and above for the last so almost 2 years now, being forced to drop down to 30 was a bit of a challenge. Look, I understand that there's still quite a lot of players who still play at 30 frames per second for the quality mode, but me, I tend to go for frame rate over resolution, because it's just a much smoother experience. Now, when I got further into the game, I actually did understand why they kept it at 30 frames per second, because you can see how good the graphics are from early in the game, but it's when you get to the later chapters that they really start to flex with the graphics. This is the most I've used the photo modes since Horizon Forbidden West. You can tell when I'm impressed with the graphics on the game, because I'll keep opening the photo mode, and I opened up the photo mode and took pictures a lot with this game and posted them onto Twitter, because the game is just absolutely stunning. Now, I'm assuming that now let's remember, this is a smaller studio, so I'm assuming that what they wanted was for it to just run smoothly at 30 frames per second, so you can experience it how they wanted you to experience it, right? And then at some point later down the line, well, I'm hoping this is the case anyway, but at some point later down the line, they will add a 60 frames per second performance mode, which will probably have like a low resolution but better frame rate. Okay, now even though it's locked at 30, majority of the game it runs smoothly. So especially with the big action set pieces, I actually forgot that I was playing a 30 frames per second game. But it's the occasions where it's not running smoothly that are a problem, because in certain areas of the game it does suffer from an issue with frame pacing. It will drop the frame rate, and it's very inconsistent. I noticed how it will drop the frame rate in one area where you wouldn't expect it to. I think it happened the most when setting fire to grass, to like, and not small areas of grass, I mean large areas of grass, especially when there's enemies around. The frame rate would just go apeshit. But then literally a few minutes later there'll be a massive set piece where loads of shit's going on and the frame rate would just be fine. So yeah, I think that's something that they could probably fix with a patch. But it will be nice if they can add a 60 frames per second mode to it, also with a patch. Okay, there was also some issues with lip syncing as well during some of the cinematics, where I would notice that the speech just wouldn't match up with their lip movements. Also, there were loading screens as well, which I also didn't expect. Now, when starting a new chapter, the loading screens, I'm okay with that, because what it would actually do it would actually give you a recap of what's of the story so far. But it's the loading screens in between different parts of the chapter. I thought loading screens were a thing of the past, especially on a next gen game. So I was kind of shocked to see that. Yeah. So now it's time for the verdict. A Plague Tale Requiem is one of the best games I've played this year. I love how you're not restricted to only using stealth, and that they give you combat options that are actually perfect for Amicia's character. The performances given by the cast are award worthy. When I finally completed the game, it just left me not knowing what to do with myself. I just needed time to process it all. The game is visually stunning, but they need to fix the performance issues and add a performance mode where you can get 60 frames per second. I can seriously see this game getting nominated for the Game of the Year award. I'm not saying it will win it, but it definitely deserves a nomination, or at least being nominated for the Indie of the Year. I'm giving A Plague Tale Requiem a 9 out of 10 and recommending that anyone with a current gen console or capable PC that loves action adventure games tries this game, because I don't think you'll be disappointed. Right, so if you made it this far, thank you for watching the entire video. If you found it useful, leave it a like. Also, I mentioned earlier on in the video that I recently did a live stream series of me playing A Plague Tale Innocence. So if you actually want to see everything that happened in the previous game, you can go and check that out. I am going to be playing A Plague Tale Requiem in New Game Plus. When I decide to do that, I'm probably going to stream it. So if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, and check out any other content that I've got on the channel, see if there's anything you like. Plus, look out for when I decide to stream A Plague Tale Requiem on New Game Plus, and you can hear me raging when I'm getting clapped or getting embarrassed. But anyway, thanks for watching. See you next time.